What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is the Punk Rock MBA, and today we are here to talk about the one and only Ghost, who are really one of those bands it seems like you either love or hate them. They went from being these like critical hipster darlings when they came out back in 2010 to now being one of the most popular bands in this whole generation of metal. And it seems like all those same people who loved them a decade ago, now they love to hate Ghost. But regardless of where you personally stand, the fact of the matter is that Ghost is huge. They currently sit at over 10 million monthly listeners on Spotify. They won a Grammy in 2016, and they recently even had a bit of a viral moment on TikTok with their song Mary on a Cross. You go down just like Holy Mary. But how did they do it? How did they go from being this like obscure underground band to now a semi-mainstream success? And what is the real story behind their controversial image? And maybe most importantly, what will be their lasting legacy and impact? Those are the questions that I will answer in this video. But first, if you haven't, please check me out on Twitch. I'm live streaming twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 7 p.m. Pacific, and you can find a link to that in the description of this video. And also, I want to thank Geology for sponsoring this video. Geology creates simple and effective skincare and hair care routines customized just for you, with ingredients that are proven to work. Their products are built around just a handful of powerful, proven ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for decades. My wife finally convinced me to pay attention to skincare, and I gotta say, I should have listened. She was right. They sent me quite a few things. For example, this morning moisturizer cream and this night cream. And I gotta say, my skin feels so much more hydrated. They also have a ton of other great new products for your body, hair, and skincare, like body wash, deodorant, and eye cream. And trust me, they all smell amazing. And right now, for a limited time, they are hooking you up with an absolutely insane offer. All you gotta do is use my code PUNK70 or scan the QR code on the screen right now, and they will give you an exclusive 70% off of their award-winning skincare trial set. On top of that, they're also giving you an exclusive bonus offer on one of their brand new skin, hair, and body products of your choice when you add it to your trial. This is one of the best offers you're gonna see, so get it now before it's gone. Ghost was formed way back in 2006 in a small Swedish town with a name that, honestly, I'm not going to try to pronounce because I will definitely butcher it. And despite the fact that they're marketed as a band, they aren't really a band at all. It's really more like a solo project, masterminded by one man named Tobias Forge.
We are on the red carpet joined by Ghost. How are you?
Who had a very specific vision for the band that he wanted to create. But after recording a few songs for this band with session musicians that he recruited, he decided that it needed to be more than just your typical band full of quote unquote normal dudes, and landed on the idea of making this anonymous theatrical band. The idea was to be this sort of occult group headed by a satanic priest named Papa Emeritus, while the rest of the band would wear identical costumes and call themselves the Nameless Ghouls. And as far as their image goes, the inspiration for that came from his love of horror movies and black metal. You can especially see the black metal inspiration with the Papa Emeritus character. But the band really kicked off on March 12th of 2010 when they posted 3 of their songs on MySpace and were contacted by labels that wanted to work with them just 2 days later. And so they signed with an independent label called Rise Above Records, and on October 18th, 2010, they released their first album, Opus Eponymous. And as most of you probably know, they got huge pretty much overnight. Their album debuted at number 10 in Sweden. They got the award for Breakthrough Metal Band at Metal Hammer's Golden Gods Awards. And they even played on stage with Phil Anselmo of Pantera, which is pretty absurd for a brand new band.
2 things. First, let's hear it for fucking Ghost. Ghost. Ghost.
And everything that I mentioned, just that alone would be absolutely huge for a band that had just debuted. But on top of that, James Hetfield himself became a fan of the band. And think about what that means for a band that just came out, for a legend like James Hetfield to give your band the sign of approval this early in your career.
I'm in their fan club.
But the band did not rest on their laurels. And right after they finished the touring cycle for Opus Eponymous, they started on their follow-up album in 2012. they debuted a brand new song called Secular Haze during a show in their hometown and introduced the character of Papa Emeritus 2. Which kind of introduces a big part of why I think this band blew up so fast. Because they came up with all this intricate lore behind the band, with this sort of cycle of introducing a new frontman for the band every time they came out with a new album. Of course, it wasn't really a new frontman, and everybody knew that. It's sort of similar to how Slipknot would come out with new masks every album. It makes the album more than just an album, it's a whole story. And I think that really gets to the key. With Ghost, they came up with a whole storyline behind the band. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't be successful if they didn't have this sort of marketing strategy built around the lore, because I think their music is great on its own. But I do think it's safe to say that they wouldn't have blown up in the same way that they did without it. Because one thing I've talked about many times before, but it just has to be said again and again, is that a lot of metal fans forget that having good music is not enough to be successful on its own. Right or wrong, at the end of the day, this is not just the music industry, this is the entertainment industry. And so if you want to break through the noise of all the other bands that make perfectly good music, we have to stand out somehow. You can have the best music in the world, right? But if you can't get anybody to pay attention and listen to it in the first place, then it doesn't matter how good your music is, right? But on the other hand, we can all think of examples that are the flip side of that, where a band is all image and no substance, and that doesn't work either. Because you can't build any longevity as a band if you've got all the right marketing, but your music sucks, right? And Ghost is one of those very, very rare bands, like Slipknot, that has both. They've got fantastic marketing based around the image and the lore and all that. And on the other hand, they also write just great, catchy songs. And in 2013, they released their second album, which hopefully I'm saying right, Infesta Sumam, which was also a huge success commercially, and musically is a little bit less evil and more poppy than their first album. And due to some legal issues around another band that apparently said they had the trademark for the name Ghost, they had to release the album under the name Ghost BC in the United States, which was dropped soon after those legal issues got resolved. And to give you an idea of how much they got the blessing of so many legendary people in the industry, that same year they released an EP called If You Have Ghost, produced by the legendary, the one and only Dave Grohl, which was mostly a cover album.
You can say anything you want, and you can do.
And in 2014, they entered the studio yet again to start working on their third album, produced by another Swedish person whose name I will probably butcher, a guy named Klaus Åhlund, who is one of these guys that is a metalhead but was known for working with huge pop artists like Katy Perry and Britney Spears. And again, the fact that a producer of this caliber chose to work with them, I think really shows what a great band they are and how much people saw the potential. And they also introduced the character of Papa Emeritus 3, who lore-wise is Papa 2's younger brother, and released their third album, Meliora, in 2015. And musically, it pretty much picks up where the last album left off. It's their most accessible album yet, and it was a huge success. It debuted at number 8 on Billboard, and they won a Grammy for the song Cerise. And a year later, they released an EP called Pope Star, which featured at the time their biggest song to date, Square Hammer, which as of the recording of this video sits at 86 million views on YouTube. Absolutely huge for a metal band. And the band seemed like they were on top of the world. They were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, getting commercial and critical acclaim. It seemed like nothing could stop them. But as always happens, they did hit a controversy. At the time, the entire band was anonymous. It was Papa and then the Nameless Ghouls, who wore identical masks. Nobody knew who they were. But all of that changed when the front man of the band, who up until that time was anonymous, was revealed to be Tobias Forge, and he was sued by his bandmates over a royalty dispute. dispute. Tobias at the time was the one who handled all the band's business affairs, and they claimed that he withheld how much the band was actually making and claimed that he owed them unpaid royalties. But the lawsuit was won by Tobias in 2018 when it was revealed that they were essentially just studio musicians who showed up to play and that the band was essentially Tobias's one-man project. So I don't know whether those former bandmates were right or not, but at the end of the day, they did lose the lawsuit, so at least in the eyes of the law, they were wrong. And regardless of what the law says, from their perspective, I can certainly understand why they would be upset. I mean, this is a band that they were part of that achieved all this success, and who wouldn't feel a little bit resentful to just be this anonymous character wearing a mask that gets literally no credit for any of it. But with his identity revealed, Tobias went on the record and talked about the situation from his perspective, which I think is also valid. Essentially, what he said is that he started this band, that he took on all the risk while pushing the entire project forward, and I think he's not wrong.
I am the only one responsible for having moved this whole operation along. That doesn't take any, effort away from anyone else. But just because you were in the band for a couple months, I won't let you, fucking represent the band into media.
And there's still a lot of fans out there who have kind of a bad taste about Ghost in their mouth because of that whole situation. But from a legal perspective, the band put that behind them and moved on. And during the last show of the Popestar tour, Papa Emeritus 3 was dragged off stage, and the band revealed a brand new member named Papa Emeritus 0, later called Papa Nile. And this character wasn't actually the new frontman for the band, but a saxophonist, which now brought the total members of the band up to 7. The actual real frontman was a brand new character, unrelated to the Emeritus bloodline, called Cardinal Copia.
Cardinal, come forward. Disarire disasilga.
And in 2018, they released a brand new single called Rats. And at that point, all the previous members besides Tobias had quit the band, which honestly really just kind of convinces me that Tobias was right when he said that he was the main songwriter and mastermind behind the band, judging from the quality of that song. And on the surface, the song Rats is inspired by the Black Plague, which was a disease that was historically spread by rats. But in other ways, it also alludes to the whole lawsuit taking place in the public eye, which might be Tobias's way of alluding to the negative sentiment that was starting to build up around him. And with his identity just completely unmasked, Tobias started slowly becoming more and more public, appearing without a costume in interviews and sharing more kind of like behind the scenes insights about the band.
What the lyrics are about is about mankind and the ideas of man and the behavior of man.
With all of that being said, on June 1st, 2018, Ghost released their 4th album, Prequel, and despite all the controversy, it was yet again their biggest album to date, debuting at number 3 on Billboard in America, number 1 in Sweden, and the singles Rats and Dance Macabre both sit at over 40 million views on YouTube at the time I'm recording this video, and it was named Album of the Year by Metal Hammer. And musically, it was a bit darker than the previous album, and Tobias stated that the overall theme of the album was death and doom, specifically inspired by the Black Plague disease, which wiped out over half the population of Europe. For example, on the opening track of the album Ashes, Tobias's daughter sings the nursery rhyme Ring a Ring of Roses, also known as Ring Around the Rosie, which originated during the plague. Another good example would be the song Dance Macabre, which is about people excessively partying because fuck it, we're probably gonna die of the plague. We might as well have fun before we do. And a year later, they released 2 more singles, Kiss the Go-Goat and Mary on a Cross, the latter of which, as you may know, recently blew up on TikTok. And the band themselves took full advantage of that trend, releasing a slowed and reverb version of the song, welcoming in all those new fans from TikTok. For those who don't know, slowing down a song and adding reverb is a big trend among the kind of Gen Z people on TikTok. Kind of like how sped up versions of a song and turning it into nightcore was a big trend like 10 years ago, which I think says a lot about how smart the band is. They certainly didn't have to do that, but I think it's very smart and very cool that they did. And it was yet again time for a new album cycle. So you know what that means? A new frontman. Although this is actually the first time where it isn't somebody new. Instead, the current frontman, Cardinal Copia, is now crowned as Papa Emeritus 4. And after that announcement, they appeared on Metallica's Blacklist, which was a 30-year celebration of Metallica's Black Album, where various artists covered songs from the album, with Ghost doing Enter Sandman, which was definitely an interesting take on the song.
It's just a beast under your bed.
And that same year, they also released a song called Hunter's Moon, which was specifically made for the brand new Halloween movie.
It's been a long time coming. I'm coming back for you, my friend.
Then on March 11th of this year, they released their newest album, Impera, which was originally supposed to come out in 2021, but because of COVID was delayed a year. And it was produced again by Klaus Alland. Again, apologies if I've butchered your name. And commercially, it was once again their biggest album to date, debuting at number 2 on Billboard in America and number 1 in several countries like Sweden, Germany, and Spain. And musically, it was a little bit more lighthearted than their previous albums, with a lot more pop elements. It's kind of like a mixture of Queen, ABBA, and Metallica at the same time, which kind of sounds weird when I describe it, but somehow it works. Lyrically, it's kind of centered around the idea of the rise and fall of empires. As Tobias explains it, the record is loosely based on the machinery of the empire and its sort of self-destruction mechanisms, and why they ultimately all sort of crumble, at least in one form or another. Which brings us to our last question, and that is, what is their lasting legacy and impact? I don't think that anybody would claim that they're necessarily the most original band in the world. Their sound has been done before. The whole like satanic image is obviously nothing new in the metal world. And of course, those kind of like theatrical performances and lore has also been done many, many times before as well. But what makes Ghost so special compared to all the other bands that have maybe done similar things is, first of all, the fact that they do all of those things at once, whereas other bands maybe do 1 or 2 of those things, and that they have refined all of those elements to perfection. And that is special. Name one other band from their generation that has great songs, great theatrics, and great marketing all at the same time. And so that to me is the genius of Ghost. It's the fact that they took all of those elements and put them all into one neat package that's presented incredibly well. I think that is what made them as big as they are today. And so to me, the lesson to take away from Ghost is that if you have any kind of grand vision, whether that's a band or a business or anything else, and importantly, you don't just leave it as an idea, but you also execute that vision to absolute perfection, you are bound to succeed sooner or later. You may not be an overnight success like Ghost was or Slipknot was, but if you just relentlessly focus on executing that vision, it's only a matter of time before you get there. All right, my friends, that does it for this video. As always, let me know what you think in the comments, and I would like to thank everybody that supports me on Patreon, especially those of you who support at the True Cult level or above. It is because of your support that I am able to do this full time, and patrons get all my main channel videos and podcasts a week early. I do giveaways. There are members only channels in my Discord that I'm super active in. There's also a way to have me review your music. So if any of that sounds cool to you, hit the link in the description of this video. And with that, I'm going to sign off for now, but I will see you next time.